Welcome, everyone. My name is Stacy. I'm a bookseller and the events coordinator at Belmont Books. Belmont Books, for those of you who are not familiar with us, is an independent and locally owned bookstore in Belmont, Massachusetts. Before we begin, I'd like to let you know that we have a virtual night of poetry coming up on June 3rd, which seems far away, but really isn't, with poets Robin Rosen Chang, Lara Egger, Tiana Nobile, and JC Todd. And you can register for this and our other events on our website, belmontbooks.com. This is our second virtual open mic poetry night, and we're very excited about it. I'm glad to see some of you who were here last time back again. It's great to see you. We got a lot of registrations this time, so I'd like to remind you please to keep it to 5 minutes per person. And to our non-participating audience members, welcome. If you have any concerns during the presentation, you can send me a message in the chat section. And if you want to give kudos to poets after they read, you can do this in the chat section as well. And then I will send the chat file to everyone afterwards so they can see that. I haven't seen any objections to recording the event, so we will go ahead and do that. And we will post the recording to our YouTube channel in a few days. And I will send out the link to you tomorrow. A reminder, please keep your audio turned off when others are reading, and then please unmute yourself when it is your turn to read, and I will announce each person when it is their turn. Courtney, you asked if you can go last, and that is completely fine. I would like to apologize in advance for mispronouncing people's names, which I almost certainly will do. And without further ado, I'd like to announce our first poet, Moira Linehan.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet a lot of new poets. I'm going to be reading from my collection, Toward, and I'm going to read the signature poem, which is Entering the Kilwillig Landscape. And I'm going to bring you to the far southwest of Ireland, to cliffs where we're facing miles and miles of the North Atlantic. And I'm going to read two sections of a 5-section poem. Each section is devoted to one of the vowel sounds in its long form. Entering the Kilwillig Landscape, where cliffs face a bay bathed in perpetual grave gray. Even on days with sun, rain clouds are always on the way. Always waves racing in fail to contain themselves. The weight of the North Atlantic presses them. Gales of wind push them to break against the base of the cliffs. But waves can't be destroyed, so they're raised as spray and raging foam. Way out on the wavering horizon, fog fades to mist. Mist pales to water-filled rays of light, traces of the last storm's passage, the coming grace of sun. All the while, 2 men in a lone bobbing boat wait for fish in the midst of the bay. Sheep and cows graze along the tops of the cliffs. Wind rakes the ferns. Isn't it the sweep of it? Why I keep turning to keep it all in my head, the eternally seething sea between these cliffs of grieving wet stone and the distant light-streaked line underneath the enormous domed clouds. Clouds that allow brief moments of sun and then release sheets of rain. Mist and fog in the sweep west to east, erasing the far hills and islands. Look again, they're re-emerging while the sea's suspended in each wave as it breathes in, gathers and heaves itself against the cliffs, erupting like fireworks into mist. And that's if there's only a breeze. When the wind picks up, it can beat so wildly, I can't even think. Yet sheep go on eating grass and weeds amidst their stone enclosures. I can see an oratory's ruins above me and abbeys below. I'm so small here, I could evaporate into the weep of rain. And there are 3 other sections, IOU. And this book is available, according to Stacy, on the Belmont website, Belmont Books website. So thank you. And I look forward now to hearing the rest of you.
Thank you, Maura. And I will send out a link to that book in a moment. The next person we have up is Robert Fleming.
Good evening, I'm Robert. I'm a writer from Lewis, Delaware. This morning I was at another event where people let me know about 2 books which exist called When the Buddha Dates and When the Buddha Marries. And I immediately thought the author had another opportunity to write about when the Buddha divorces. So I wrote this haiku for that. When the Buddha gets divorced, Buddha pilgrims to Ganges River. I wrote one more haiku about the Buddha. When the Buddha blows blue bubble gum, gum gets gooey under the Buddha. So that was more a fun one. This is called Proportional, and I recently did some major editing on it. Proportional. Satan was a member of the Elvis fan club, reworded jailhouse rock, hellhouse rock. Satan mobiles up to earth to Graceland, inserts an Elvis CD sin list, baubles an Elvis bobblehead, revisits his refusal to admit Elvis to hell. Elvis committed near sins, no sin. An 18-year-old fornicating with a 16-year-old is what Satan favors. Fornication, no sin. Rocking hips side to side, rocking hips back and forth is genuflecting, no sin. Elvis's one-piece white jumpsuit came closest to sin. Rope string closed hairless sternum access. The rope, nope. Light bondage, no sin. Satan wears an extra large Elvis one-piecer. As Satan's hound dog shakes, Satan's jumpsuit lycra forms a second skin. Sin. Satan's second skin made Satan hotter. No sin. Satan's final Elvis judgment. Satan refused Elvis entry to hell. Satan extends a Graceland entry ticket. The ticket taker stamps Satan's ticket. Refused. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert. And next up, we have Pamela Bailey Powers, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Pamela Bailey Powers, and I live in Lexington, and you can find my books locally at the Rockport Public Library or the Lexington Public Library. The poems I'm reading tonight are from a collection I've been working on through this terrible year plus a couple of months. I'm calling it for now Love and Loss in Lockdown. To Liliane of the underworld, a god of my own making. Morn song. Liliane, I called you among the sea dross. We are barren now, without bairn. A flowering rose adorns the ribbon neck round. A bottle of ink, a pen, and vellum fill the shouldered sack. The letters long to be sent glow with stamps, color field. In his last days, the old pants frayed, and he bought one new pair that came last hours in time. Liliane, I call you, and yet you are no more to now, a spirit lingering, a spirit playful, a changeling in my soul, as amongst the bitter, the innocent lie down. A haiku. Spring sun of such bright, even hillside cave lets in light. One wax candle's worth. The year without our little pleasure palaces. Others have still to take figs to table, to take oasis dates to plate, and through the marketplace on and on the gleaners glean, round the streets, the carts wheel hobble through fog, the mist and sighs. Beneath the yard tree, ground laden despite our times and folly, I tucked an apple up my sleeve to give to you tomorrow. Your hands are cold, you wear a coat, your sack holds not a thing. The bed sheets cool, the canopies of Alhambra tiles go blue. Across the bay, the stone well lows what spring deep down might bring. On the ledges, deep far from the big house, the night the lantern bugs tangle lit my hair, you stilled with the white-tailed deer in the hay meadows grown tall, plum tree, apple, pear, road center there. How we saw each other as is, even in this now of fox musk, coyote call, the moon in blue black cloud. You heard me whisper your name, and all those orchard blooms in star sweep breeze began their white pink lilac petal fall as my untangling hair lantern lights took to air. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Next, we have Richard Waring.
Thank you, everyone. Very interesting to hear everyone's work and to know that you're all local, though you may have originated elsewhere. I started out in New Jersey and then New York and finally Belmont, and now I'm in Arlington. And this is called Monarchs Passing Through New England. They arrive in September, storm kings landing in lilacs, chitinous orange frames, leaf heavy, a new kind of foliage. Scientists say they make a right-hand turn in the middle of Lake Superior, a blind thirst to follow an ancient, long-gone glacier. They turn singularity into a collective, a wave of wings, craving an updraft, rising over the empire state building like any mountain, spreading the arms of summer across a continent. I too ache to make a wild dogleg turn, to rise and fall, fit tongue and groove into a new story. This is a poem about the year 1917, when the machine gun was introduced into warfare. It's called Studio for Portrait Masks, Paris, 1917, for Anna Coleman Watts, American sculptor and painter. Some say men without noses are very beautiful, like ancient marbles. They wait outside my studio on park benches painted blue, a warning that the mutilated who sit here may be hard to look at. I take up the task where surgeons leave off, painting to hide what's missing, masks held on by glasses or string around the ears. If an eye is gone, I'll render its twin. You may not guess which one is true. Artfulness takes months, and I can paint only a few hundred for the thousands in the union of the facially wounded. My masks are galvanized copper, thin as a visiting card, worth their weight in gore. For lashes and brows, perhaps a mustache, I cut their hair, sliver foil in the manner of Greek statues. There are no mirrors here. Only the blind keep their spirits up. Where do I paint the melancholy? Some say I give them back their souls. A woman told her husband she no longer finds him hideous as she had a right to. They last a few short years, my thin soldiers, become battered, dog-eared. You should have seen them. They're gone now. My men wanted to be buried with theirs on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Okay, I also just wanted to let people know that I'm just going in the order that people registered, so nothing personal in any of this. So next up we have Dean Spencer, please.
Thank you, Stacy. Want to acknowledge the gravity of this moment in which a jury in Minnesota has rendered a verdict. Just to say that, and has nothing to do with what I'm going to say, but it needs to be acknowledged and praised. I am a Belmont Day School teacher and stop by the store frequently with that in mind. This one has no title. A story waited outside on your wet doorstep, stomping muddy boots. I would have texted, he said, but you know how that one ends. This is Express Yourself. Dear Sir or Madam, I'm sorry if I used the wrong address. Though living in an age when endless streams of calculated packaged goods appear next day on doorsteps, conjured only by a spoken word, I find I'm at a loss when you invite me to express myself. Suppose that I prefer a local self over express, or that myself is more heavily freighted and frequently stopped, carefully crated and marked this side up. What if myself is more of a regular delivery, enveloped with just one forever stamp? Is myself insured, registered, certified? When myself arrives, does someone have to accept delivery? If no one is home, is myself left on the doorstep, or is there a note to pick myself up tomorrow between 8 and 4? Road trip. Suppose you lost the road, or that there had been none. So no Samaritan along your way, no roadside conversion, no fellowship of pilgrim tales, nor meeting the devil at the crossing. No way less traveled when really all are worn about the same. No hope, no l'amour. How now to get to Rome? Not even an eightfold path here in the desert, where all ways are open, but some are wrong. No use your goddamn big car. Proceed to the route on your own. And this one is midwinter. It's brown in the woods now, or gray with frost, not even clean white snow. Frail oak leaves barely whimper when you crush them underfoot. You climb the side hill, rhythm off, phlegm clogging nose and throat, like the fine ice on the slower edges of the stream. No one wants to hear it. Why are you here? When you stand still, your fingers grow colder, breath by breath and year by year, colder still in the dark places in the pines. Still, the dog needed her walk. See her silver-edged silhouette as she waits, standing in a shaft of sunlight. Follow the cloud of her breath, and you find the five-fingered tufts of a white pine waving in the light, beckoning as they never have before, not once in the 1,000 times you've been this way. And lastly, one called Go. Read the calligraphy of geese. Imbalanced chevrons in the air, tri-cornered glyphs in the sand laid down one upon another. Up on the grass where footprints don't show, green bars of hardened dung. What is their word for end of flight? Not landing, but splashing down in water. How did they say, fall, time to go? When you go, listen. There are stories everywhere, words you don't have yet, truths carried in bits and pieces. The birds have some, and the trees, the traveler on the road, the old woman in her garden, the fisherman, the carpenter, the wind itself. What is going to happen? What has happened? The whole of the now. How do they say, time to go?
Thank you, Dean. And I hope to see you in the store sometime soon. Okay, next up we have BJ Feeney, please.
Well, I'm a retired reading and writing instructor in the public schools. The first poem I would like to share is called from my book, Friends and Anemones, Ocean Poems for Children. And it was a compilation of poems written by authors and illustrators at the Writing Loft in Sherburne, of which I'm a member. We had to each research a poem, and my research actually started when my son was at BU studying to be a marine biologist and taking scuba diving lessons. And we had a National Geographic magazine that we were sharing an article on, a blue whale. And I learned some fascinating facts about the blue whale, not just that it was the largest animal that has ever existed, but that it is one of the loudest animals under the sea. Its tones can reach up to 1,000 miles. It's an issue today because of the noise pollution created by man. And the Rosalia Project is an organization that tries to clean up the ocean. And so this book was written in collaboration with them. And we're hoping that as we bring this book into schools and out into the world, that people will think about joining to clean up the environment and save our earth. So I give you Blue Whale. Big blue breeches, lifting flat flukes. Slap! Sharp smacks echo in water's wake. Tracks vanishing below foam surfaces. Ocean alert! Eels slither. Starfish hide. Seahorses curl until his whistling stretches, crackling, buzzing, sighing across dark depths. Low moans croon, all is well. It is said that the blue whale sets the tone of the ocean. My second poem comes from my own book called Gabriel's Light, Spiritual Poetic Musings that I wrote in 2018. And it's basically a self-help book, spiritual self-help book about bringing your own light to the world, your own purpose, and sending it out to the universe. And because it's April, I chose the poem called Mother Earth Gaia. When I feel sad, lonely, full of desolate despair, I come to your unconditional arms and dump my woes among the bowels of the earth. I feel the consolation, my heaviness lifted as my pulsating heart matches your own heartbeat. A rhythm unlike any other, slow, steady, true, faithful to its own cadence. Sometimes it is enough to blend and follow, but in times of intense angst, I'd rather gather myself into your molten lights, firing red, burnt flames of yellow, orange flares that renew my spent energy, increasing my abilities to rise above the current crisis of my mind's eye. Sometimes it is more prudent to cool myself in your glacial ice paths inside icicled caverns of rainbow light magnified, bouncing off slivered walls of each other, creating macabre patterns against my sides, resting there. Sometimes I just float within you, a reprieve, a solitary monastic refuge from all that is. I gather up my monads, microcosmic entities bestowed upon me by the source, to face another day in the evolution of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, BJ. Next up, we have Eugenia Fain.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
I hear you loud and clear.
I
Okay,
hear you.
done. So I'm all set? Okay, thank you. Okay, thumbs up to you too. Hi, it's good to be with everybody. I'm enjoying myself. It's an honor and a privilege to participate. I have two brief poems that I'd like to share with you. I am an Amazon author, but I have a booklet that I'm working on now with Starlit Press with a European publisher, and it's called The World of Poetic Forms. I enjoy challenging myself to write different types of poetry from all around the world. I know you're familiar with the haiku and the sonnet and that type of thing, but I have some very obscure poems from different countries, from Asia, Europe, America, all sorts of places that that you may have never heard of. So I'd like to share really briefly two poems from this upcoming book. It should be available on Amazon within about a month. We're working hard to edit it now. This poem that I'd like to share first is called A Song of Despair. It's a Viator poem, Viator. Sing a song of despair, of heartache and pain. Let it ring forth through the rolling hills. People will hear. Sing a song of despair. Many will join in with their own lament. Beat the solemn drums and march into the assembly. Sing a song of despair. Let the cadence roar. echoing of the burdens that no one knew you bore. As shackles embrace your soul, sing a song of despair. The end. The last one that I like to share is something that I challenged myself to do. I challenged myself to come up with some archaic words, some old-fashioned, out-of-date words from a different time period. And so I worked hard on this. I hope you enjoy it. It's called The Maid Swain. Verily, verily came courting the maid swain, for to beseech her to abstain. He knew belike that she was his bride, and they would consummate their love anon. Betwixt a suitor came, though the lady was fain to marry the former gent, she was wanted with her life, and both of them she did despise. The end. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks so much, Eugenia. Next up, we have John Holgerson.
Good evening. Just a thank you to Belmont Books for having this event. I don't think we could ever be all zoomed out about poetry readings, at least not if you're a poet. The first poem I would like to read is a poem that was published earlier this month in an online journal called The Poetry Porch. And it also is a poem that will be in my third book of poetry, which is going to be published later this year. It's called Convictions of the Heart. The poem I'm going to read involves a Greek island. The Greeks call it Hydra. In English, we call it Hydra. And it's about a period of time that I spent there and actually have spent over a number of years there. Hydra, October 2010. The fishing boats scuttle daily in and out of the Horseshoe Harbor, wooden and fiberglass crabs seeking a shoal of squid or a sponge. Tourist shops are bringing in their postcard century stanchions and wobbly wood tables with multicolored t-shirts bearing the island's name. Old timers stroke sweat from bearded chins as they play pinochle and backgammon for beer and sausages in the old bars behind the yacht-lined harborfront. The air has become burdened by the thick weight of an alien humidity. It clings to the linings of the lungs like the soda-soaked clothes on our bodies. And like the ancient rapacious pirates buried unceremoniously in unmarked graves, this bullying sun of global burning has stormed the island's pine forests and seaboard, drying the groves to tinder while pushing up the beach's sandy skirts so the Aegean can take by force areas once beyond its greedy tidal grasp. Tavernas and bars along the harborfront will soon shut their double doors until April, when the poppies and tourists will both bloom again, and the winter winds from Egypt and Israel will have blown this bastard mugginess westward, along with some sudden yet expected Sahara sand. The second poem I would like to read is the title poem from my second book of poetry, and call it Unnecessary Tattoo. And it's available through Ingram Distributors, so I'm sure that Belmont Books would be able to obtain copies of it from the finishing. It was originally published by the Finishing Line Press in 2016. I'm going to read the title poem, and I want to make just an observation about tattoos, which I think is one we all made in the past, and that is they're silent statements that people make by placing these messages in various locations on their body, but they all mean something to the wearers. And sometimes if we know the person who has the tattoo, it's really redundant, because if we know the person well enough, we don't need to see a message about them. And it's really an unnecessary tattoo. And that's the title of this poem. A bruised heart, cleaved in two, stitched down the middle. No mystery or enigma here, no obscure or secret riddle. It's there, behind your eyes. It's the catch in your voice at the mention of star-crossed lovers or the vagaries of choice. It can be seen in the ashes of the cigarettes you snuff out, the lingering sparks of memory in your holy grail of doubt. Don't tell me when it's done, the needle round and thin, the short, hot veneer of pain, the stain upon the skin. It's just another private part you'll likely hide from view, a duplicitous reminder, an unnecessary tattoo. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. Next up, we have Jay LeBeau.
Can you guys hear me? My name is Jay LeBeau. I have a poorly run Instagram called Some Things Sober. Just a warning that some of these poems, they're very short, deal with addiction and alcohol. Okay. Spring has sprung, and in this moment, my life has officially begun. It's been 1,601 times that I've made this promise, and if I'm being honest, I'm frankly rather done with this thing or that thing, and now it's finally happening. Yes, it's finally happening. I only ever want to know you sober, and since I've been, I'll show you this time and another once more over. I'll show you in each rhyme because I love life slower, and in turn and in kind because our stars shine lower. And the bar's line is over, and my scars, they're lined closure, and the world opens up to me once again. Why do I only drink tea when I'm not drinking? Bags only sink for this long when glasses aren't clinking. I practice as my steeping blends these squares my silent lattice ends until they open like the kettle lid as it whistles when it's done. Burners sizzle, water runs. Along the side my cup is filling to the brim. I've just begun. My oh so beautiful prison is adorned with specters, phantoms, liars, and raving hordes. My own vomit is spewed atop of imported marble floors, and ornate bars serve crystal in which my drinks are poured. Success! I brushed my teeth again tonight. A mountain you have become, but now I'm climbing once again. If I was a bachelor looking for a partner, then I'd build an app that matched us only by our favorite author, or that only those in pain would even be accepting offers. And that the only people that you saw were those that always need to try again. Two more. Before my heart has spoke, I'm once again whisked away in my expensive, shitty time machine that only goes forward and never records what I have seen. It doesn't move fast until you look back. Last one. My good ship arrives barely in Casco Bay. Brutal and bloated, its hulls busted and splayed. Her deck is red, dried and cracked. It's been bled, fried and sap, thick with broken bourbon barrels and rum. Ice and no sun. Her mass is splintered, smashed and tapped of any life. And yet she still sails. And sails she has. However battered she's been, her namesake prevails. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Jay. Really appreciate your sharing that with us. Next up is Joseph Lamm.
Now you can. technically challenged. Now, I appreciate everyone's works that I've heard tonight. It's wonderful to hear. My name is Joseph Lamm, as Stacy said. Thank you, Stacy, for Belmont Books. And I record music. I've done so for a number of years. So I write and record, release records through a small boutique label. Also have a couple of books. I have a second book coming out actually just in a couple of weeks. And it's called Incantations for the Revolution, of which I'm going to read just a couple of short things. Most of my work is actually fairly short. I do not have the talent to be able to carry a thought as far as I used to. A couple of years ago, I actually experienced strokes, and there's so many things that have revitalized in my life and kind of reemerged, as I'm sure we all have that from time to time, where something, maybe we forgot it, but an event happens or something spurs our memory and it's kind of returned to us, which is a wonderful thing. First thing I want to read is, it's called Eternal Wake, and it's in memory of my sister. 1,000 suns dance over 1,000,000 dreams, imagining they are part of a story. Bending into the limitless sky, tranquility rests within the veil of their love. The voice of the one becomes the soul of the many, and the dreams of the many become the story of the one. A part of us remains when we leave this life, that part we cherish, that part we give to others in acts of love, an eternal wake growing out from the uncoiled spirit, expanding as it touches new suns that dance to new dreams forever. This one's actually called Shine On. Doesn't matter who you are, if you're rich or poor, we're all the same. If you're Buddhist, shine on. If you're Muslim, shine on. If you're Christian, shine on. If you're Hindu, shine on. Use your light in your part of the world. Use your power in your corner of the world. But without love, you have nothing. You have nothing without love. This is called Early Evening Ocean. Out on an early evening ocean, I thought I saw a woman. She was dancing on the water, holding mercy in her hands, holding love in her hands, holding forgiveness in her hands. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And last, but certainly not least, we have Courtney Queen.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So I am not published in any way unless putting something on your iPhone and then making it into a PDF qualifies as publishing something. And I took up poetry. I have no formal training. I probably took a class at some point. I don't even remember. So I don't proclaim any skills, but it's become a new kind of pandemic hobby, which, you know, we're all learning new things. So this first poem I wrote about 2 months ago. It was thick winter of the second or third wave of the pandemic, just to give you the context. And the title of it is 7, and it was written for my daughter, actually, or thinking about her. So 7. Don't touch, mother says. They're in daycare, you're in school. Don't touch, mother says. Teacher's pregnant, we must protect her. Don't touch, mother says. Grandpa doesn't want you in his house. Don't touch, mother says. Baby's sleeping. Wash your hands. But the little boy fell, so I reached out to help him. And teacher hugged me because I was sad. And grandpa said to come over because he missed me. Baby's eyes were open, so I touched her. I used sanitizer. It's okay, mother says. It's okay today, mother says. The data are okay today. But tomorrow, mother says, don't touch. I also thought of calling it confusion because I think it is confusing for kids, but that seemed too basic. And then my second one is called Time. And this one was written at the beginning, seemingly at the beginning of the pandemic. I think it was about April, so a year ago, when all of us, I assume, were just figuring out the gravity of what was occurring and where we were and how long it might be and who knew what to do. So this one is called Time. Time, you relentless old beast. You saddle me with your endlessness and you smack me with your impatience. You sit on me like an anvil and you ask me to see opportunity in the abyss of sameness and sameness in which we now exist. And yet, when I try to manage a task, be it bookmaking or math or furious Instacart shopping or getting kids to take a bath, you steal the damn hours away. You force me late into the night. This madness has me looking a fright, half showered and half sane. I long for the mundane that I coincidentally became. We feel none of us is good enough, and yet each of us is good enough. But all of this is just too much, so please, please take off the weight. Let me go on a date with my spouse or my friend or my therapist. Just make it end. Let me buy groceries without freaking that the person who is speaking less than 6 feet away is spraying droplets in my Pop-Tarts. That's enough now. I'll go to bed. That's enough. I'll go to bed now. Maybe tomorrow will be different somehow. That's it.
Thank you so much, Courtney. That really captured so much of what the last year has been like. Okay, so first of all, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Everybody went, right? Okay. So we have a few more minutes. I don't know if people want to just end, that's fine, or if people want to turn on their mics and ask each other questions or, you know, chat a little bit, that's also fine. You know, we can go till about 8 o'clock. So whatever you want to do is great.
Thank you, Stacy, so much for doing this. Really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you
it's our
so much.
pleasure.
Yes, absolutely.
Been
Yes.
beautiful. It's been wonderful seeing you all. I hope to do it again soon. It's my privilege and an honor to know you.
Mhm. Hey, John, unnecessary tattoo, dude. I got it after you like nailed it right on the head, man. I got it after I'd had my strokes, and it reminded me of realizing I had another opportunity to enjoy living. And yeah, so it means something to me. You're exactly right. And only the people that are close to me know what the story is behind it. So yeah, I guess to everybody else, it's, hey, what's he got there? So,
Well, yeah.
I have a
but
question.
anyway, no, I thought I enjoyed that because I thought, I've got one.
Thank you.
I have a question for Dean. I am new to growing a beard, and I think, like you, I didn't have a choice in the color. But I'm wondering, my beard is only a few weeks old. How old is your beard? Because I would like to get something.
I had a choice when I started. I actually have not shaved since December of 1977.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
I have trimmed multiple times. I do have a photo at some point in 1981 or so taken in Maine probably on Baxter, where I'm standing on a ledge and the wind is blowing and the beard starts this way and then turns, makes that perpendicular turn in the middle of Lake Superior there.
Nice.
You've heard about
Yes.
Like the
So
monarchs.
funny.
the ZZ Top thing that I
I
had.
was
for
saying,
a
you could be
while.
a replacement player for ZZ Top.
That's right.
Dean, do you ever get the reference of Colonel Sanders? My father used to get that when he sported a beard.
Once in a while, though more frequently, if I wear a red jacket around in December, I get to cut the line wherever I go.
Nice.
Richard, you could glue an attachment on your beard to get a few years on
Be
it.
patient. It'll come in. It'll come in.
It gets,
I did want to share a workshop that I did about 3 years ago for Walt Whitman's anniversary at the Walt Whitman birthplace on Long Island, New York.
Huntington. I'm
At
from
Huntington, that's right.
Yeah.
I both led a traditional writing workshop on how to write like Walt Whitman, but I also did a beard making workshop, and all of the participants made beards. And then when we came to read from the book, we all wore our Walt Whitman beards for the reading.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fun.
Eugenia, I am very interested in your many forms approach.
Yes.
I really want to hear about how that, like, where you search. How do you search?
Just do a Google search. Just look up poetic forms. There are over 150 poetic forms. And I think I want to say from memory that one editor that I enjoy reading is Robert Lee Brewer, Brewer. He does a lot of articles on poetic forms that I've written. And he goes into depth on how to create them, and he'll give an example. He's a very prolific author, and he gives an example of his own, on different types of poems. I've written poems from Cambodia, Korea, Italy, England,
What was
Japan.
What was the hardest form for you to write a poem in? Of all the forms you've used, what was the hardest one?
Oh, wow. The sonnet. I have a hard time, trying to figure out if it's iambic pentameter. I know that I can look up every word and see, what if the stress is on every other syllable on that second syllable. But that's kind of I kind of second guess myself and kind of doubt. But I have tried some sonnets, and I also enjoy just reading and paraphrasing and rewriting some of the authors that I enjoy, like Robert Frost and Langston Hughes, and so I often take my inspiration from poems that have already been written.
Well, I thought you were going to mention a form like a guzzle or a pantoum or a sestina, but
I've done those. I've done a pantoum. I've done a sestina, at least one. I don't know what the guzzle is.
What was the form that you used? It started with a V, I think.
A B?
A V?
A V. I call it a Viator, Viator.
And what is the nature of that particular form?
Well, I don't really know offhand. You would have to Google it. I Google it and I read the instructions, and it tells me, how many syllables, how many lines, how many stanzas, what rhyme scheme, that how many times to repeat different lines. Some poems have repetition and refrain. So, I don't remember offhand what the definition of that is. I just wrote it out according to the instructions, and
in view of the world we're living in, so full of blank verse and free verse, you are unique to be writing so many different forms.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I ran out of ideas, so I thought I would challenge myself to grow, and it worked out. It usually works out. Sometimes I have to rewrite it and search for vocabulary words and count syllables, but a lot of times it's fun. I think you should try it. I highly recommend it. It'll help you to come up with some new ideas.
Once upon a time, I wrote a villanelle. It was the hardest poem I think I have ever written. that Villanelle.
Well,
One of the things which I think is missing from instructional material is when you should choose a certain form. You know, I've written a lot of pontoons, and I've gotten a sense of when that form is right for the poem. But you know, if you're teaching, let's say, high school students, and you're asking them to write a sonnet, a lot of them are going to ask you, why should I write a sonnet? And I don't have an answer for that.
it's the same reason that you take Latin.
Oh, dear.
Why
Well,
should I write a
Robert
sonnet when a
Frost-
limerick would do?
Robert Frost said that, it's the free verse is like playing tennis without the net.
Right.
So I learned how to play tennis, but I still can't go into form that much as I would like to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. What with forms is that I don't know anything about forms, and I didn't even know there were multiple forms. I didn't even know that they were, tied to certain cultures. I mostly just model like the way I write off of like hip hop music, basically, and just kind of go from there, because I just think it's such a especially really good hip hop is just like such an organic way of rhyming and putting together different combinations of words. It's really cool.
Jay, with that bass behind you, are you in a band?
I am a music player. I play the piano. My bass skills are not very good, but actually my uncle made that bass for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very well
I
done.
was tempted to ask if you'd written any lyrics.
Oh yeah, plenty. Plenty hip hop. I only have as much to say as that relates to me personally. But yeah, I'm taking piano lessons. I just moved to Maine, to Portland actually, and so I'm taking piano lessons up here and exploring. So it's really been great to meet all of you people and
Explore the eateries while you're there.
yeah, I've heard
Coming
so yeah.
Yeah.
My Monarch poem has been set to music, piano music,
Oh,
with a voice singing the words.
can you sing any of it?
I was very pleased about that. I can't.
Can't. That's
I
okay.
should say
That's okay.
Zoom doesn't let music sound very good, so I refrain for that reason. It wouldn't be sufficiently excellent enough.
Oh.
I've written several poems in the Beat style, and when I read them, I take a kitchen pot, and I take a metal spoon and a wood spoon, and I do some drumming before or between the stanzas. And I'm going to be doing a reading next month. And at the beginning, I'm going to invite all of the participants to go get their pot and
Great.
drumming
Wait,
with
whoa.
me.
Speak more clearly.
Cooking pot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly
that's
right.
Get your pot, sure.
Right, yeah. Already
I-
there.
I studied with Allen Ginsberg out at Naropa.
Wow.
Interesting segue.
Yeah.
Speaking of pot. Yeah,
When was that?
he would sometimes start his class by saying, fill in the sentence. Marijuana makes me, and then you have to, that was the roll call.
Oh,
That's great. Well, on that note, I think we will say goodnight, but I really want to thank you all. You're all very brave, and everybody puts themselves into this, and that's a really powerful thing to do. And I hope that next time we can do this in person, but if not, this is great too.
Love
Thank you all
Belmont
so
In
Books.
much.
particular,
Thank you so much.
appreciate.
Thanks again,
That cafe is
Stacy, very
wonderful.
Yeah,
much.
thank you, Stacy.
Thank you,
Thank
Stacy.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Steve.
Stay
Everybody
safe.
take good care. Keep writing.